Good morning, everyone. My name is Elena Muravska, and I'm Program Management Officer from RIPE NCC. Before that, I worked for 5 years for the registry services, mainly focusing on transfers and mergers and acquisitions, so there's a big chance that I dealt with one of you in your tickets. You see two names on this screen. Vesna Manojovic was supposed to deliver this presentation today. Unfortunately, she was not able to travel, so I had to jump in last minute, which was a bit challenging because I had to prepare last minute. On the other hand, I am very grateful for this opportunity to be in this community and to meet you all. So today I'm gonna present you about the internet in Denmark as it's seen from the RIPE NCC measurement tools. So actually, the internet in its nature is a global thing. We might argue about that these times, but we still want to believe it was and remains global. However, every country has its own particularities that do shape the landscape of the internet. So it's like economical circumstances, it's a political landscape, etc., etc. And so what we do at the RIPE NCC, we use our measurement tools to capture that unique landscape that internet has in different countries. In December 2022, we published our 10th country report, which we dedicated to Nordic countries. And today I will give you a few highlights from that report. So the report itself has much more, so things like IPv4 holdings, transfers, IPv6 readiness, regions resilience and stability, so access to key route, etc., etc. So Denmark, while working on this report, we find out that Denmark is first in European Union on quite some things. So it's broadband, it's 5G, it's RAW for IPv4 and connectivity. So you see here two graphs. The graph above is about fixed broadband subscriptions. The data source is not RIPE NCC, obviously, so when the data source is not us, we refer to it on each slide, on each data block. The graph below does show the coverage of RAW of IPv4 prefixes, so that's a quite high and quite nice coverage. Denmark, by all of this, also ended up being the second on Digital Economy and Society Index. The Finland is first, and Denmark is followed by the Netherlands. So I've been living in the Netherlands quite some time, and I tend to believe Netherlands is first everywhere, but not in this case. So we are only third. So congratulations to Denmark, who make the second place. So the next graph thus shows IPv4 transfers. So we've been gathering this data for more than 10 years. This graph is showing the 10 years data about all transfers that happened actually starting from 2012. Then the transfers were accepted by the community. And since then, it was quite almost the only mean to get a fast amount of resources for the networks. So on the left side, you see outgoing transfers, and the incoming transfers are on the right side. So you see that Denmark, from all the countries in the region, being quite a large donor of IPv4 resources. The vast amount of these resources by transfer went to recipients in Denmark itself, in own country. However, many of them went to predominantly to Italy and Iran. If you look at Denmark IPv4 capacity, it's not the highest from the Nordic region. So Denmark has roughly more than half less than Sweden, for example. Well, we don't see Sweden that, yeah, quite active, but not as active as Denmark and the secondary IP transfer market. Denmark has also very high amount of IP resources per capita. It's 2.1. It's a very high number worldwide. However, it's still lower than, for example, for Sweden and Norway, that you have 2.9 there. And it's a very, very high number. So next two slides, you will see exactly next to graphs as we have them in the country report. However, we've been flagged that we missed one player. It's Telia DK. Apologies for that. So we have added that to our numbers and made new graphs. So when you will be reading the report, uploading that from online, just keep in mind that you have to use the graphs that you see on this presentation. So a few words about the graph on the left. It shows the connectivity between networks in Denmark. So I need to let you know first about the methodology that we use. So they used RIS data for that. RIS stands for Routing Information Service of the RIPE NCC. And the dots are colored by country. These are IS numbers, and some large IS numbers are also here indicated as a number. So we had to limit amount of IS numbers here by 250 because the country has a fast, very large amount of IS numbers just to increase the visibility of this graph. So these 250 IS numbers are the most visible in our measurements. Also important to know that this view is limited to routes that are followed by international traffic. So this is just a feature how they collect the data. So this is the only possible way to collect this data. The errors are going to indicate the direction of BGP announcements. So they are actually, the traffic goes in the opposite way. And in general, this visualization shows a very high level of interconnectivity between the networks in Denmark. So a very good picture. And the next slide, the next graph is showing the connectivity internationally, and it's very diverse in international connections. So also, again, congratulations, very good picture, what we see. So it shows resiliency and robustness. By the way, Renee and Suzanne are the authors of this report, so they deserve all the credits for this amazing work, what they have done. Also, we had a look at regional traffic exchange, and this figure, it shows like the paths between origin and destination in the same country for this region for IPv4 resources. This data we collected this RIPE Atlas measurement tool. So the purple dots here on the graph are geographical locations of those Atlas probes, and the colors you see actually the trace routes. What you can tell from this picture is the routing is reasonably well organized. There's a few exceptions which are called tromboning, and they are particularly for Denmark. So some routes are going over the Atlantic to Los Angeles and then coming back. So they like to travel, but I do think there is a different reason. They will visit all those amazing cities, including Amsterdam. It's because perhaps the usage of XPs locally is not that optimal, and this is something for you to discuss, to think about. You can also do some checks using our tools. The link is also on the slide. IPv6. So Denmark, you see that it's least IPv6 capability comparing to other Nordic countries. If you take the world average, which is 30 to 40%, Actually, all Nordic countries are quite, not quite, Denmark may be quite below that level. You also might have noticed that IPv6 capability showing on this graph, the numbers, they vary. It's because different data source providers, they use different methodology to collect this data. The link for data source providers are also on this slide. In general, what they think, the better country is covered by IPv4, the less the country is inclined to speed up the deployment of IPv6. In Denmark, however, taking into account what we just discussed, that it has less amount of IPv4 per capita, it's much higher in Norway and in Sweden. In Denmark, it's still quite low number of IPv6 deployment. We are also always looking for answers for our community. So why things are happening like they're happening. It's interesting to study the background of these developments. For that, in 2019, when we conducted a very large survey among the operators, we received over 4,000 responses, and 250 came from the Nordic region. The impression that it gave us was that actually for this region, the need to gain more IPv4 addresses via transfers for the operations was much lower than average in the RIPE NCC service region. But the operators here in the region did indicate that deployment of IPv6 is something quite high on their agenda and much higher than average in the RIPE NCC service region. So that's a good trend. A few more words about IPv6. So we at RIPE NCC, in more than 10 years ago, in 2010, introduced a system which we called IPv6 ripeness. And we give stars to operators for depending on how well are they deploying IPv6. So it's very easily earned. It's like at school, you might have the same system at school. You always get 1 star for almost doing nothing. You just have to request allocation of IPv6 from the RIPE NCC, and this is your first and very easily earned star. However, we do see that in Denmark, 21% of operators don't have allocations of IPv6 at all. You get 2 stars if you have a root object, 1 more for reverse DNS, and for visibility in RIS, you get 4. And as a crown, 5 stars, then you actually have connectivity through, and the traffic is visible. In Denmark, there are some LARs that qualify for all 5 stars. So congratulations to those companies in this room. Good job. You can read more about this system, and I hope this is encouraging you. So this is how we want to encourage you to deploy IPv6. To wrap up this part of my presentation, I want to remind you which measurements and tools we've been using to collect this data. So first of all, it's a RIPE Atlas. It's our main measurement tool. It's a global network of probes. They do collect data in real time, and everyone can use and benefit of this data. Also, the Atlas probes holders, they can have like customized measurements to measure their own network and to have insights in their own networks. So it's always good to ask if there are here people in the room that do host Atlas probes. Yeah, great. So amazing. So thank you all, because you all contributed to this report. Because without you, without installing this probe and helping everyone collecting this data, this won't be possible. Also, a quick overview of other measurements and tools like RIS, RIPEStat, IPMap, etc. You can read more about these tools on the links that are provided on these slides. So that was a kind of quick run through our country report. I hope it inspired you to download the whole report. It has much more information, and it's a very good read with your morning coffee. It's much better than a newspaper, believe me. I had to read it before presenting here just to refresh my memory. And we are looking forward to hear your feedback. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And if you have answers to the questions, because we do ask some questions like why this is happening in this region, in this country, also please reach out to us and we will be very grateful for your input. And a few announcements about our projects and upcoming events. Community Project Fund, which is funded by the RIPE NCC. Yearly, we allocate 250 euros to multiple projects that work for the good of internet. And the applicants are selected by independent committee, which is elected by the community. So community members, they elect the community project fund recipients. There are eligibility criteria that you have to get funded. One of them is that the project shouldn't have like a commercial element in it and serve like the broader good. And I'm pretty sure there are recipients of this fund here in the room. No, I don't see any hands. But anyway, you can look at a list like who has received the funding, and you can also, the projects are very diverse, very interesting. Last week we had an open house there. They all presented current findings of their research. So that's very thankful work. So you give something, but you also receive something back from the community. And of course, there is a lot of anticipation for upcoming events. Starting with the first one, it's a C meeting, which will take place in Split this year on the 4th and the 5th of April. So please join us there. The weather should be fine and much better than today in Copenhagen. The biggest event of the year, of course, the RIPE meeting, and this year we will have it in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So welcome allemaal. Just before the RIPE meeting, we will have hackathons, DNS hackathons. So please take it into account when you plan your travel. So this is Saturday and Sunday before the meeting. Also, don't think too long because there is an application process for that, and the deadline is 23rd of March. So if you click on the link, you will see the timeline for application. There will be some events before the hackathon to prepare the crowd for work together. You can consider applying for fellowship if there is a need. Unfortunately, for RIPE 86, it's already closed. So if you have a need, think about next round. We're also always looking for sponsors for our events. And we provide different packages, but you also can sponsor like separate elements of the meeting, such as on-site childcare, a diversity in tech lunch. And you can also sponsor other people that don't have means to come to the meeting. That's called diversity tickets. And it's a very thankful contribution to the community. All the links are on this screen, so please have a look, join us, and we will be happy to greet you in the Netherlands. So this was the end of my presentation, and I hope it was useful and inspiring to read, to download and read the whole country report. Thank you all.
Thank you, Elena. Do we have any questions?
Question, but I have my own microphone, so you don't have to run all the way here. Well, it's not a question, it's a comment. I'm Max from, I represent myself here, but to follow up to what Elena just said about events, I'm part of the RIPE program committee, And if you have anything interesting you would like to present at the upcoming RIPE meeting, and you don't feel like submitting something right now, come and talk to me, because I can try to convince you to do that.
So if you hesitate, don't talk to him, because he will convince you. So.
No, but the call for papers is open, call for presentations is open, so please have a look and see if you can submit something. So thank you, Elena, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I'll be around this afternoon, so if there are any questions, then please approach me.
Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.